to my wood shop. My name is Scott Hampton. I live in Visalia, California. That's between Bakersfield and Fresno, and gateway to Sequoia National Park, about 8 or 9 miles just west of the Sierra Nevada mountains. It's a really pretty area, kind of the jewel of the valley. That's enough about my city, I guess. We're here to talk about ornaments. Ornaments, ornaments, ornaments. So let's get on with the grand of all ornaments, at least in my opinion anyway, the hollow globe finial ornaments, which if you look over the other side there's one I like to make that has milk paint on it. Gives it a real antique type look. I really enjoy that one. And the natural edge, which I'm going to do first. It's not quite that kind of bark, but it's going to have bark on it. And you can see the finial on this one is an icicle finial. Hopefully we can get to that before our time runs out. This is a real delicate but fun finial to do. Festivus, of course, the Festivus for the rest of us. It's always I like that episode. It's not Christmas unless I watch it 3 or 4 times. All right, so let's move on to doing the overhead. Yeah, let's start with the overhead first so you guys can see what I'm working on here. I believe this is a piece of aspen, if I'm not mistaken. And we are going to leave the bark on this one. This will be it makes for a very interesting and unique ornament. The first thing I want to do before I do anything else is to drill the inside out for hollowing before I even do any shaping. Sometimes I shape it first, sometimes I don't. Let's go ahead and shape it first and then we'll drill it out. That'll be the easiest. So these are pretty basic ornaments to do. It's not really hard as far as getting the shape right because you do want to leave a fair amount of bark on here. So we're just going to kind of swing the tool. Just start at about a 45-degree angle on the tool and just kind of curve it over as we go in. And we're just going to pare that down. We're going to start at the corner and work our way. And it is going to be out around. It is a natural piece. This is another 2-inch piece of dowel that I cut up for glue blocks because it is cheap enough to do that. And I glue it using Titebond glue. I don't CA glue it. I've had too many pieces fly off. Hot glue, same thing. So what I do is I'll get 2 rubber bands. I'll get the Titebond, put it on the glue block and this piece, put them together, and I get 2 rubber bands and I wrap it around there as a clamp and just let it sit overnight. And you're all set to go the next day. So my tool's at almost 45 degrees and I'm just going to come in and I'm just going to gently touch it. And if you can, you want to keep as much of the natural bark on it as you can, just to give it a nice natural feel. But you want a nice curve down all the way to the bottom here. Now when you get towards the bottom, you want to create a flat or almost a curve, almost a slight concave here in the center. Let me switch cameras so you guys can see that. Let me zoom in on this camera. Oh, I should have used my remote. Sorry about that. You guys can get a good view of this. So if you look at your left top window there, I'm just creating a small cove right here. This is where the finial will rest. when it's put together. So you want to leave that either flat or slightly concave. I prefer the concave. It seems like the finials sit better on that. So I'm just going to, just a gentle cut here. I might do a draw cut just to get rid of full marks using the wing of the tool, the bottom wing. And we'll see how that came out. Aspen usually pretty reasonable as far as being able to cut it. Still have that concave there. It looks pretty nice. So we're just gonna start the shape here. We're not gonna take it all the way down because we need that holding power of the glue for when we hollow out the center of this.
What is the length and diameter of that piece to start with?
This one is just shy of 3 inches, and it's 1.5 inch thick when I started. No, not quite. Yeah, about what? Just shy of 1.5 inches thick. So I'm just going to start the shape, but I'm not going to finish it off until after the piece is hollowed, because we do want that extra support there. But we want to get the shape started so we have a general idea of while we're filling the inside, while we're hollowing, what kind of a shape to follow. So we'll just shape it down to just to the glue block here. Try to get both the front and the back kind of shaped the same, or the top and the bottom here. So I'm just kind of glancing over to see if we're getting the same kind of shape going here. Almost. Just some light general cuts. And then I'm just going to come in and do the same kind of full cuts here, just clean that up. Just finishing off some of the shaping there using the wing. Just be gentle and light towards that bark. We don't want it to accidentally peel off. So as you can see, because it's a natural shape, how it gets thin in some spots, thicker in others. It's just how it's just the shape of the log or branch. It's what causes that, because it's not truly round. So what we want to do is we want to drill this out now. I've already got my drill set up over here. Before we drill it, I need to do that one thing, and to put that little bit of a divot right in the center here. This will allow the drill bit to find the center and not wander when the drilling starts. So we need to turn down the lathe. Let me bring up the drill bit a little bit more. I want to show you what I did here. Wow. Kind of went out of focus on that, didn't it? I wonder why I did that. Well, once I take this away, the upper right or upper left corner is what you want to see anyway, except I put a little mark right here on my drill bit, and it's almost as deep, but it's just shy. It's about 2/3 of the thickness of the blank. I don't want to go all the way through with this size drill bit. I'm going to come back with the thinner one or smaller one and finish off the drilling, and I'll show you why I do that in a little bit. But this is so the hollowing tools can get inside. So this is a 5/8 drill bit, and the other one I'm going to use is a 3/8. But I've created these little jigs so I can reverse turn these, and I do need a 3/8 hole when I reverse it. So we'll see that in a moment. When I get to the finishing portion of this. So I hold on to the drill chuck here so it doesn't spin. Then take it in about halfway, pull it back out, get all the shavings out, then finish the cut. I'm just going to stop shy of that, so I did take a little bit of that blank down when I shaped it. Walk on my tail centers. There we go. So I need to slide this back and change the drill. And I'll take the 3/8 and I'll drill it all the way through.
The first bit was a 5/8, I'm sorry?
Yeah, that's a 5/8. That's the size, that's the minimum size I could use for the hollowing tools I use. They are small hollowing tools, but you do want just a little bit of extra there. Otherwise your tools are going to rub on the opening and can actually make it larger than 5/8 if it keeps rubbing on it. So this is a 3/8. I'm just bringing it up until I can feel it just touch the wood. And you can tell by the sound when you come through into the glue block, the sound of the wood will change. Just like that. Much smoother sound going into that maple than this aspen. And I always take the drill chuck out because you do not want to jab your elbow right into the point of the drill bit. I have done that one too many times. All right, so we've got it all drilled. So the tool I'm going to use to hollow this out, let me get some of those shavings that are sitting in there. A air compressor really helps with cleaning out shavings when you're hollowing. You could blow it in a straw or something. Just if you're using a straw, just make sure you don't breathe in while the straw is in there. You're going to choke yourself. So these are called rocket tools. They're sold by Mike Jarkowski. He's a really well-known hollow turner. Oh, my hair is just going mad. And these are hunter tools, hunter tips. They're carbide tips, but they're cupped. They're very, very sharp. And they're just like a carbide tip, sort of like on the Easy Wood tools, except it's cupped. And you can rotate it to a sharper point. These are very delicate to try to sharpen. You can't really, without really fine sharpening wheels or cards, you can't sharpen these. They're about 20 bucks each. I've been using this same one for 2 years, so I've gotten a lot of use out of it. We've got a fairly kind of long handle on it just for support. And this will allow me to swing it around and get some leverage when your hollowing tool tip needs to be at center. I'm raising my tool rest a little bit because it wasn't quite on center. Just hold the tool parallel and even with the bedways and take it in. You pretty much get an idea if it's on center or not. And for these tools, I turn it 45 degrees when I start. And pretty much throughout the whole thing, it prevents a lot of catches and dig-ins and self-feeding. So it's at 45 degrees and I bring the handle around. And I just gently start that cut. Need to turn up the speed a little bit more than that. About 1500 is good for these type of tools. Much smoother cut when it's turned up a little bit. Just take your time. There's no hurry with this. And this tool will let me get really far in there. Now, you're not too worried about having exactly perfect wall thickness when you're hollowing these. What the hollowing does is lighten the ornament. That's what you're after. So you're not going to have to get calipers. I've seen some people, wood turners, take calipers and measure the inside of ornaments and make sure, but when you glue those, the top and bottom finial on there, nobody's going to see how thick or thin or anything else it is. So I don't understand their thinking on that. I guess it's just a perfectionist in them. Okay, it popped out on me because I didn't have the tool at 45 degrees and it's wanting to grab. So this is about as far as I can go with this particular tool. If the next hollow ornament is a little smaller, so I'll be able to finish it up with this. So I'm going to grab me the bent hollower. It's the same, it's out of the same set, but it's got an elbow on it. Gotta pull it out of my rack here. There we go. So you can see it's got a crook in it. The tip lines up with the straight part of the bar. And this will allow me to get further down into that shoulder area there. But the trick with these is you want to make sure the straight part of the bar is on your tool rest. You don't want it in here because it can cause the support, loose support. It's going to grab and cause you problems. You need to have it on the straight part. That way the tip is even with the flat bar while you're cutting, and it gives it the support you need. So pop this into the handle here. Same thing, you want to just have it at 45 degrees. And we're just sitting on the flat area there, and we just kind of gently bring it in. And all this is just for lightening the piece. So I can tell it's starting to get some shavings in there, so I'm going to grab my compressor hose here and kind of hold your hand over it so you don't get sprayed with the shavings. Cleaned it out pretty well. You don't want the shavings to build up in a hollow form because if it sees up around your tool, and if it does that, the piece is literally going to grab the tool out of your hand and send it spiraling around and cause a big problem. Now I can tell by the sound of the piece, I'm pretty much as deep as I want to go. It's right there. That's how far up the elbow it was, so I'm pretty where I want to be there. Next thing, I touch the tip to the outside here. See if I made any marks. Nope. So I'm going to clean it out one more time. And you can stick your little pinky in there and feel around. That feels good. Now the one thing I did on the inside, you can't see it, so I left where that smaller hole is a little bit thicker to give it extra support when you glue the hanging part or the top part of the ornament. Will be on the top, will be right here, and you want extra support because that's where all that weight's going to be pulling down. So it just gives a little extra gluing surface there, you might say, when you put the mortise or the tenon inside the hole there. So that's pretty much it for hollowing this one. So what we want to do now is just finish off the back side here, or pretty much this is the top of the piece. So we want to turn away a lot of that glue block and keep that shape, the same shape we've got on the bottom. So I'm going to grab me my spindle gouge here. And I'm just going to start working my glue block down, just doing almost like cove cuts towards the piece. But remember, there is a hole drilled through there, so you don't want to go so deep so fast that you're going to hit that hole and have the piece come off prematurely. So now I'm just matching those the cuts here, getting rid of any glue. So I'm just going to stop the lathe and have a look and make sure I'm removing the glue. But okay, I've got a glue line still right there. I'm going to get rid of it. So I'm just going to do a pull cut. Clean that glue off. Keep that shape moving there. So I've gone as far and deep as I can with this particular spindle gouge. So those of you who have been to my demos before have seen me use this. This is my large 1/2" detail gouge. It's very shallow fluted, so it cuts down on vibration a lot. It's heavy. And because of the angle of the bevel, it allows me to get deeper in than a general spindle gouge would. And this, I can get this tool really sharp. And you can tell by just how that cut it, it's really nice and sharp. And we're just gonna keep working. Gonna work back on the glue block a little bit. It gives you a little extra working room around down deep inside. So I got the tool almost with the flute closed, not quite. And I'm going to stop it, make sure I'm getting most of that. What's left of the glue block? Okay, so there's still some glue block left. So I need to take some more cuts inward. So this is the time to do it before it gets so thin that it's going to pop off because of the hole there. It's easy to tell the different kind of woods, whether it's the glue block or not, because it will leave a ring of glue around it. So I'm almost there, not quite. A little further in. There we go. Now I can just go back and forth a little bit, take it further down. Now I just got to be careful not to let this thing fly off on me. So I'm just going to take it a little bit further down this way. I have a general idea how big that hole is. And then I'm going to come in and use my thin parting tool and just cut a flat. And that flat is where the small top finial will rest on the piece. I'm just making sure I've got all the glue block on, and there is still just a little bit there. So I'm just going to touch that up. It can get a little confusing and a little, you got to get at the right angles here to get rid of that. All right, so we're at the point now where I can grab the thin parting tool and just do a straight cut right up against where that glue block was. And if it does, at this point, if it does leave a little bit of glue residue, that's all right. So I'm going to turn the lathe down so it doesn't go flying off, because it will be covered up by that top finial. So we want to turn down the lathe a bit, and we just pop it off just like that. And hopefully, let's see if you can see that inside. You see just that little deeper ridge right there. Let me get the light right. But there's a ridge right there in the center next to that small hole. Where it's a little extra thick for that finial there. So we got that. I didn't sand this one up. It should be fine the way it is. I like to keep these as natural as I can, so I don't generally sand the natural edge ornaments. I'll just clean it up a little bit. I'll take one of those white pads and brush it. If there's any dirt, it will come off. And then I just spray it with a either a satin or gloss lacquer or acrylic. This is always a nice finial to make. It's a little more challenging, but it's great practice. It's great tool practice, especially with detail. I learned how to make this when I took a class with Bob Roseanne, 2009? It's been that long. I don't know how many of you guys who have been around know who Bob Roseanne is. He's pretty much retired from wood turning now. He's an avid bicyclist. I don't know if he still is, but he sold the wood turning tools and things, and I still have a few of his ornaments packed away that I put on my tree every year. Just gorgeous stuff. I call him the king of wood turning ornaments. So, icicle. Same principle. We're going to start running it down, create a point at the end, but then everything changes after that. So, let's turn up the speed. It's a little too fast. I don't need it at 3,000. Yeah, 2,300 about there is good. Take it down as fast as I can round. Sounds like somebody came back in to watch. That's good. Welcome back. Unfortunately, I never can tell who's coming in and or out. And, wow, is there still that kind of figure in this one too? Woo! Pretty figure in this. Just gorgeous stuff. And these things get a finish on it. These finials are really gonna pop. These are just supposed to be plain old 1x1 silver maple blanks. Boy, somebody cut some pretty wood for these. All right, so we want to make a point at the end, just like we did the other. Lighten up the cut as we get towards that point. We don't want to break it off. All right. Leave it a little round. Oop. Came back too fast. We need a kind of a longer point than what was there. That one was a little too short. You know, just take some of this wood down. There we go. We need an icicle point. That's what we're looking for, and that's what we got right there. So I'm gonna grab my sandpaper. I keep putting it somewhere, and I think it keeps getting buried in shavings. There it is. So we just want to sand this point off before we go any further. I always make these a little round. If it's a sharp point, they tend to break off a lot easier. There we go. And I'm just feeling it with my fingers. I want to make sure there's no bumps in it. Make sure it's got a nice curve. So I need to take a little bit more down right through there. Oh, there's my sandpaper. I want to put it somewhere where I remember where it is. Right there. So I just want to come back in with my spindle gouge and just kind of clean up that little bump right here. Remember, I was using my roughing gouge a minute ago, so this will clean up all that. All right, so what we need to do is make a small icicle, and as we work our way up, they get larger and larger. That's the idea. So I'm going to bring my tool rest around here so I have a better angle of attack on this. So I got the tool straight up and down, and once it starts cutting, I twist and push, just like that. Just kind of round that over a little bit better, and it's still not quite the right shape through here. It looks like it's got a bump right here, so I'm going to get it before I get too much thinner. Grab the sandpaper one more time to clean that up. Now we need to take a big section of wood out right here. So we're just going to go back and forth with the tip of the tool. Then we're going to gently come up underneath this icicle here. We're going to get rather thin as we go. Round that over. I'm trying to do this with a larger spindle gouge because I know everybody doesn't have a small detail gouge. You know, just the shape there. And it's good to have a good sharp tool when you're doing this. Clean that up with the sandpaper. Still looks a little, maybe a little too big for this icicle. So I'm just going to gently take this down a little bit more right here. Back and forth cuts. And reshape it a little bit. Gently. This is a test of how light of a cut you can make, I'll tell you. Alright, so now we can come in a little bit better here. Round that over just a little bit better. Now we can come back in with the sandpaper and clean that up. Nice, gentle, we don't want to force it. Except I see a problem. It's gonna bump right in this area here, so I'm gonna be a little bit crazy. Nice gentle cuts here and just kind of even that out towards the bottom there. And look over my banjo, and I'm glad I got a black banjo because I could really see profiles like this using that black. Kept thinking something didn't look quite right, and this was it. There we go. Still a little bit of a high spot right there. Smooth that out. Ah, much nicer. I don't know if that's picking up on the camera or not. That's much nicer. You guys can see how much better that looks, I'm sure.
Much better.
Yeah. It just didn't look right. I was looking at it like there's something off about it. I'm glad you like this version better. All right, so now what we need to do is we need to take more wood off using the tip of the tool. And we need to work our way down to the bottom of this icicle here. As we get closer and thinner, the nicer and lighter the cut we want to make. Right up to the bottom of this. Right there. We go a little bit thinner. It's not quite thin enough. Looks a little bulky to me. The thinner you can go, the more delicate these type of finials look. And I am going to use my little detail gouge. Maybe. See how this does. If it doesn't clean up well, I'll bring that into play. But I'm just trying to do this with the larger gouge. There we go. So now we gotta take more of this away. Gotta remember, you don't want it. You want it a little bit bigger than this one, so you want to leave a little bit more wood. The same. We want to create the same kind of a long detail line here up to the bottom there, and same kind of push here. We're just going to take that in, and we're just going to adjust the size as we go. We're going to take some of this away, give us some working room. And that's a little too big still, so I want to take that down a little bit more. This is in the roughing stage still, so bear with me. I might have made it, yeah, it's about the right size. I was thinking I made it smaller than the bottom one, but I think I got it just right there. So I don't want to make this area any smaller, so I still need to take some of this down. And just come in underneath here. A little bit of a high spot right here and right up against the icicle there. So we're going to use sandpaper now and see how that makes a difference. I'm just looking at it. They're either the same size or this one is a little bit bigger. Use the sandpaper to help shape this one. And this sandpaper is about wore out, so I'm grabbing another piece. We need really big sandpaper. This is going to look nice on that blue fin or that blue globe. I'm going to back that away just for a minute. I do see a few tool marks I want to clean up here. Oh, I wanted to show you guys what that finial tool rest looks like. In fact, I can dig it out to finish the rest of this. Alright, so I need to bring in my small detail gouge for this. It's just not getting it. There's a slight ridge right here I want to get rid of. There is a slight high spot right here I'm seeing. I'm going to clean that away. If anything, you want this straight. You don't want a big bump right there going into the bottom icicle where it joins together. Stand out like a sore thumb. Alright, so I'm going to stop the lathe for a minute. I'm going to grab that other tool rest out. You guys can see this thing. This is a very interesting tool rest. It's made by Steve Sinner of Advanced Lathe Tools. And what this allows you to do, this is called a finial tool rest. It allows you to, if you need to help support your finial, allows you to bring your fingers on the back side of your finial and hold it, give it support while you're using the tool. And you don't have that post right in the middle getting in your way. And it's got a very hard rod here, prevents any dinging or anything. So let's see if we can finish this off using that tool rest. I try to practice with it when I can, and I think this would be a good time for that practice. So you just want to bring it up. You want to adjust the height. Whether it's my spindle gouge is on center, so it goes down just a little bit more. There we go. As far as it does go, and it's perfect. All right, so we'll give this a whirl. Tighten my banjo back down. All right, we're all set, ready to go to the races. So again, we just need to take some more wood away. Try to get more gentle. Oh, camera, yes, sir. There we go. So this will allow me to come around and support this if I need to while I'm using this tool. If I'm working on this area right here and things, so that's what I like about it. Gentle tool control right through here when you're coming up to the bottom of this icicle. You don't want to pop it off. We're not going to go as thin. The further up we get, the thicker we can go. We do want to get rid of this a little bit. All right, and you take more wood away. Now we just need to work our way down. Gently to the bottom. I want to take any more than that off. There's a bump right here, so I want to get rid of that. I'm going to take this away. And I'm just going to look at the thickness there. Just a little bit. Okay, so that's going to be a little bit bigger than the second. So we can do this to it. We're doing good. I usually make 4 icicles on these, and then I create one of those codes again. Now it's a little bit thinner right through here. And I'm just peering down, I'm bending down and just looking at the horizon there, seeing how the shape's developing. It looks good. Give it more of a onion type icicle shape. Is a little too round, is more like a bead shape. So I'm just kind of lengthening that area. And I just want to clean this up very gently because I don't want to take any more wood off of here than I have to. And sandpaper will probably take care of the rest of that. So let's put that on there.
Hey, Scott.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
What angle do you sharpen your spindle gouges to?
Which one? My detail gouges are 35 to 40, and my regular spindle gouge like this one is 45. But my decal,
Thank you.
yep. I'm just kind of cleaning this up with the sandpaper. And refold it over. These little pieces, but you go through them pretty quick. Just gently pull this back. I saw Bob Roseanne once do a demo, and he moved the tool rest not very carefully, and he was almost done with the icicle ornament or piece like this. He's on his last pointy part there. He was finishing it up, and he moved his tool rest out of the way, and he hit the thing and snapped it right in the middle of a demo in front of a club. So I try to keep that in mind whenever I'm moving my tool rests around when I'm making one of these. It's like, what would Bob Roseanne do? There you go. So we got a really good uniform thing going there. So we can make one more icicle. I usually make these a little longer than my onion ones. So I usually use a separate piece to make the top finial that goes on top of the ornament. So here we go again. Remove the bulk of the wood. So we gotta get more gentle here. A little thinner. This area here. Gentle cuts. Now remember, this is unsupported, so you want to just take it easy at this point. Go just a little bit thinner. There we go. It's just a little bit thicker than this one is, and that's what you're looking for. And you just want to kind of round this over a little bit better. Go, bring that up nice and gentle. All right, so now we can start taking this wood down. And again, I'm going to bend down and judge the thickness there. Maybe take just a little bit more down. Probably shouldn't, but that looks good. Start shaping that nice long cove into the bottom of this. There in the bottom. So we need to take this down a little bit more. All right. Take some of this away. Take this a little bit more off. It's a little tall. There we go. And just gonna start taking this way down. Get that slight cove. Get that started right now. gonna tuck that under there. And now we can start working on this part here. Round this over a little bit more. So you can see that developing. So I'm working on it there. Now this section is a tad longer than I wanted. As you can tell, this one's a little shorter. Generally, the further up you go, the longer this area gets. So I kind of got carried away and made it a little too long. It should have been more like this one in this area and this one up on top. Over a little bit. There we go. That looks a little better. I'm just bending down, looking at the profile. Looks pretty good. Let me start on that coat a little bit more. Get cut inward right here. More of a V cut down in there. And grab me my sandpaper. Grab me a fresh one. Clean this area up right here. It's a little too round right there, so it doesn't really tuck in there very well. I'm going to use my smaller detail gouge just to bring that up underneath there. Anybody been watching old Aaron Judge? This home run derby type of things going on, trying to break the records. He's a hometown boy. He went to college up in Fresno that's near here. And he's a baseball player there, and that's where they actually discovered him. So everybody, he's a big thing around here, especially now when he's matched that one record of 61 home runs in one season, and he's on to break the other ones. I don't know if I set my recorder to record, but we're supposed to be playing the Orioles tonight. All right.
It's football season now.
I like both, so I'm not complaining too much. I grew up down in Southern California, just a few miles from Angel Stadium, Anaheim, watching the Angels play. I was there every weekend. We had box seats right behind the dugout when I was growing up. So when they were home, I was there. I actually have fond memories. I was just probably 4 years old, and I saw them building Anaheim Stadium from the ground up. So it holds a special place in my heart. You know, Trout and Ohtani, they're doing pretty good. You know, Trout, he could have broken that home run record, but he was on the disabled list. But If he wouldn't have been on the disabled list, he would have been right there, up there with Aaron Judge as far as the record goes. All right, so I'm just going to create that chamfer, and then I'm going to pull this out a little ways and create a tenon so it'll go in the bottom of that globe we created. So I can just slide this out a little ways, and as long as I keep it in the same grooves that the chuck jaws created, it should run pretty true without any problems. You just want to pull it out about halfway, give you a little extra room there. Give it a spin, see how true it's. Yeah, that's pretty close. Close enough. So grab my spindle gouge. I'm surprised the point on this is done so well. I've been using the heck out of this thing all day and I haven't having to sharpen it yet. Now I do. I touched the edge of on the jaws there, I heard it. So let's grab my parting tool and we'll just smooth all this out. We'll get that tenon started here. Okay, it's a little loose, but not right there. So we're good as long as I don't take it down anymore right there. So I'll grab that small parting tool, do that undercut I've been talking about so much. In fact, this finial might look better on the natural edge because it's so long, and that globe is so big. And the tenon will fit in that one too. So I'm just going to part this one off. Give it a twist. Off there. So I'm thinking this one will probably look better on this one. This does match the, 2/3, 1/3 type of rule because this is so long, so much better. But that's a really very interesting and, as you can tell, detailed type of finial to me. And we'll grab me a nice piece of burl here. Seeing which one's going to take the wood nice. So I've got two different kinds of burls. Some is really spalted, some is not. So this one's got a lot of, let me change the lights on that. That was kind of hard to see with those lights on. So you can see all the different bird's eye kind of flakes in this one, which would take color nice. But this is a really figured piece. It's much lighter. There's a lot of figure in it. There's some spalting in it. But adding the blue to this would be just gorgeous. So this is the one I'm going to use. So I'm grabbing my small roughing gouge again. I'm just going to true up the outside shape of this. I'm not going to start shaping it until I get my spindle gouge going. But I'm sure it's as you can see, it is not running exactly true. This has probably been sitting in one of my buckets of ornament blanks. This is probably one of the first ones I glued up and never used. So we'll see how it holds up. I do have other blanks over there in case I need to grab it. Oh, we just lost somebody. That's a shame. Sandy, thank you. I'm glad you liked the photos. It's nice to see the finished product, you know, that aren't actually demo pieces. Although I try to do the demo pieces as nice as I can, sometimes they just don't work out that way. Oh, just so you guys know too, you are allowed to open your mics and ask questions or turn on your cameras or whatever. I don't mind. There's icons down in the bottom corner, bottom left corner of your screen, your Zoom screen, that allows you to turn your microphone and cameras on and off. This is a for everybody type of demos. That's what I try to do. So having people talk and stuff is part of the experience. So I'm just going to true up this top. It's running out of true. I'm using my 1/8 parting tool there. This wood is really soft and it's easy to cut. It's kind of powdery because it's so dry. So let's have a look what it looks like now trued up. Oh, look at those. Yeah, really pretty grain. This is gonna, I don't know if I want to use red or blue on it now. Fire red or blue. Still thinking blue would be nice. So it's time to grab that spindle gouge again and just shape this one. This is going to be a little different shape than the natural edge. This is going to be a complete oval from top to bottom. But we're going to start the cuts the same way. We start at the corner here and just do chamfer cuts at first. And before I get too far ahead, sometimes I like to take a pencil and mark where I believe center is. I'm just eyeballing it. You can grab a ruler if you wanted to. And just so you know, I'm going to grab me my ruler and measure the size of this blank. So I try to keep them between I usually don't try to make my blanks any bigger than 2 1/4, 2 1/2. The pieces usually end up between 2 1/4 and 2 inches diameter. And most of my blanks are cut at 1 1/2 inches. This one was. So it'll be just shy of that once we get it all shaped. That's a really good diameters and size to start with ornaments. You don't want them really big. I mean, you can make them big, but it depends on what kind of tree you want to hang them on. So I created a chamfer there, so now we're just going to start rounding it over from the center over. So I'm going to start working here at the beginning, towards the center first. So I'm just going to start in the middle and just kind of push and swing the tool away from the handle away from me. It will create that shape you're looking for. Let me go to the 3 cameras so you guys can see what I'm doing with the tool. And you'll see that I'm kind of pushing the handle away from my body as I swing it around. I need to drop my tool rest just a little bit. And I'm just getting that nice shape. Nice oval shape all the way around. Now I want to create the same thing. I want to create a slight cove here for the spindle or the finial to rest on. It also gives glue space when you got that. And I don't use CA glue to glue the finials on. I do use regular wood glue. So from the center line, I'm just going to kind of start the cut, and I'm just going to twist it with the tool and join that curve together. And I'm looking at the horizon, the top part right here. And I can see the shape taking place when I do that. Yeah, it looks like we got a pretty good shape going there. So I'm just going to do a draw cut here to get rid of any tool marks using the wing of the tool. There we go. And now I'm going to move my tool rest around so I can just start doing the cuts here. Same type of thing, I want to make a chamfer. So to do that, I'm going to have to take some of this glue block down just to get the general shape going here. Just like we did the earlier piece. So the chamfer needs to be a little more steep there. We'll just stop at the glue block there, and then we're just going to swing this. Kind of get that shape started. And now for this shape, instead of swinging my the handle away, I'm starting with the handle away from me and I'm bringing it in towards me as I twist the tool. And that's what creates the shape. Welcome back, or welcome whoever just came back in. That's where the center is here, so I'm just kind of tidy that up a little bit where that pencil mark was, just make sure it's rounded. That's as far as I want to go with that before we hollow. I need to grab my parting tool, create that little divot. We got to do all the drilling and hollowing again. So I like to start drilling first with my large drill bit because it leaves a point in the bottom of the inside of the piece for the smaller drill bit to find. So I have to go through the steps of removing the small drill bit and putting the big one in. One of these days I'm going to get 2 drill chucks so I can have one each drill bit and a different one, and all I gotta do is just swap out the drill chucks instead of going through this hassle of switching them out over and over again. So when you put a drill bit into a chuck like this and you feel it bottom out, you don't want to keep it there when you tighten it up. You want to just pull it out just a little bit so it's not in the bottom, and then tighten it down. It will straighten the whole thing out. If the drill bit is cuts just ever so slightly, not straight on the bottom, it can throw the whole drill bit out, and it's not on center. Okay, so this is going to be, just to make sure I'm not going to go too deep, I'm just going to measure how deep I want to go. So I want to go in just shy of 2 inches, or just shy of 1 inch. And got that mark at 1 inch, so I'm just going to stop a little short of that blue mark. Let's bring that drill chuck up, and I'm going to turn down the lathe. Tighten the tailstock down. Yeah, we do need a little speed for the chuck, for the drill to go in. And so I'm just going to go just a little bit shy of that blue mark. Since this wood is so dense and kind of dry and powdery, I don't really need to back out the drill, 2 or 3 times because of the shavings. Remove this chuck. Yeah, Yes, sir.
Is there any reason you couldn't go through completely 5/8 top and bottom?
The reason I don't do that is I find that I have found that because the hole is so big, I'm losing support from that glue. And I tend to pop them off the glue block before I want them to come off. And also because of the, there's a jig I created, I'm going to show you guys that. It allows me to reverse turn this so I can clean up the bottom, especially if I'm dyeing it. The jig really comes in handy if you're coloring or dyeing or painting or whatever you're going to do to it. So I'm going to show you that right after I finish hollowing it and cutting this off. I'll get that little homemade jig that anybody can make. And you'll be surprised how handy they can be. So,
Thank you.
Yep. Here we go. Just listen for the different sound. Make sure it pops all the way through. Do a couple turn or two extra. Just definitely want to make sure it's on center. It's very important with these type of tools, or you'll be fighting them all the way through. All right, so let's get this. Turn it down. I guess getting a little bit of vibration. I'm at about 2,200 RPMs thereabouts. 45 degrees on the tool. And I should be able to hollow this without the elbow because it is a really light wood. So I'm not too concerned about it being too heavy once it's on a tree. It won't bend the branch at all. That's the whole point of hollowing these is if you got a really light piece of wood, I do have some sugar pine where I don't even have to hollow those because the wood is so light. All you gotta do is drill the holes through it, which is really nice. But this piece of wood, this piece of really spalted maple burl, that's pretty. That was that quick. That's all the hollowing I need to do on this one. It'll be light enough, definitely. So let's get this final shape done. So we're just going to rough in the shape, then I'll grab that large detail gouge and finish it. So I'm just removing some of this scrap wood to get it out of the way. So I'm not going to be bumping into it. So I need to pick up that cut and bring my tool handle around to me. And I'm just looking at the horizon here just to see if I got the shape right. And they're looking at something here that's got a kind of a bump right here in the center. That would take forever to sand away, so I'm just going to clean that up real quick. Alright, so I need to grab my detail gouge because I can go a little bit deeper with it. And before I go any further than that, I do need to sand it. I'm getting ahead of myself here as far as make sure I get this one sanded. This isn't a natural one, so right there, just a little bit more, a little too fast for the sanding. I can feel the heat build right up into my sandpaper. If you feel heat in your sandpaper, you're turning the lathe too fast. A little warmth is natural, but when it starts going, ow, that hurts my fingers. It's when you need to back off just a little bit. This is a piece of 220 I'm using. because this is such a light and airy type of burl piece that I've got here, I don't need to start with the lower grits. 220 would work just fine. I'm going to turn off the lathe here and we'll see how that grain looks. And there's a nice little void in there. I like having little voids in my ornaments. That's great. Another one right there, but I can, this looks, it's like a chip out, so I'm just going to hand sand that smooth a little bit there. There we go. That one looked more like a tear out or something. This is not, that's a natural void there. You just want to fill all the way around and make sure you got it nice and smooth. You need to do a little more sanding on the top. You want a smooth, nice base for your die to go on. If you got a lot of open pores and things, it's going to show up. So, and a piece like this lends itself well to some hand sanding, just to get those slightly rough parts smoothed out. Just rub my finger across it, just to have a feel. That feels much better. Feel the back side there, that feels good all the way around. Yep. All right. So now we can finish turning it off here. Then I'll pull my little jigs out. So a little bit of a tear out on this natural thing. So I'm just gonna smooth that out. If you don't get most of those little divots and things smoothed out, like a little bit of a tear out, it's gonna magnify and leave really dark spots on it when you dye it. It's definitely gonna show up. So I got the lathe going a bit slower. We're only at about 1200 at this point. There's no rush. I'm just gonna have a look, make sure I'm getting all the glue off, because I see a line forming there. There is a slight glue line left behind, so I want to clean that off. There it goes. And when I reverse turn this, I'll be able to sand this side of it. So I'm not too concerned if it's leaving some tool marks behind. You can only sand it though, you won't be able to turn it. You want to make sure any really heavy tool marks are gone. Do some pull cuts here to get rid of any low spots or high spots. You got to remember too that sometimes the lines in the burl are going to show up as dark lines when it's spinning. It's not necessarily a tool mark. So we're at the point now where I can get my thin parting tool, create that flat. The shape is very uniform, top and bottom. I'm going to turn down the lathe a bit here. You don't want this piece to fly off and go across the shop. There we go. Nice. So these are the little jigs I'm talking about. Very easy to make. This size here is pretty much that same size as that small hole. And then I create a taper right here. And this one's not quite the right size. I was for a different one. So let's see if this is the right size. I have like 2 or 3 of them for different size ornaments. Yeah, there we go. And you just press it on there pretty tight there. I've also got a, let me try one more here. There we go. This is the best one. It fits in that hole just nice and tight. Goes up on that taper nice and tight. I'll also use my tailstock with this little brass pipe coupler that you can get at the hardware store, which goes over the threads on my live center. So let me get the jig into the chuck. Hopefully this one's gonna fit. It's good. Is it gonna hold? Or I might have to get my pin jaws out. I don't know. There we go. I think it's just barely gonna hold tight. It won't take much strength for this, so it just pops on just like that. Now I can bring my thin parting tool or my regular parting tool and just take that little edge off right there, that little lip that formed when I parted the piece off. This is strong enough for that. I just want to gently turn the blade down here and just bring this up nice and gently here until that's gone. Since that's sitting proud, it's going to get in the way of the bottom or the top finial there. There we go. That's good. So I like the coupler just because it gives me extra support when I'm doing the dyeing, and also you don't want any dye to really get in this area, otherwise it can interfere with the glue. So this will just slip right up to the threads there, just like this, and I can gently just bring it up for a little bit of extra support right there, get it centered. Just have a look, make sure it's seated all the way around the piece. It means it's centered. Doesn't have to be tight, it's just a little extra support is all. You crank it out too tight and you can break your ornament. And I feel like I can feel it kind of making a slight crunching noise, so I'm going to back it off just a little bit. That and it's pushing up against the backside there, so it's not centered anymore. Should have left it alone. There we go. All right. So, reason for this and that is because I do need to turn the lathe on slow for some part of the dyeing process and finishing process. You do need to have the lathe spinning a little bit. So I'm going to grab me another piece of paper towel here and my blue dye, because this is alcohol-based dye. It's chestnut dyes. I like alcohol-based dyes rather than water-based because it's easier to apply and it dries faster, and you can blend different colors together better and easier. Oh man, this is really going to be gorgeous. Hopefully you guys can see that showing up on the camera there. Let me put on overhead and see what it looks like. It might be a little too bright for. And we'll just keep working our way around. And I just bring it right up to that copper coupling there. And we can get it down in here, and then I'm going to grab me a brush in a second, and we will get down in that crevice there with the jig. It's going to be pretty. Okay, so with a brush, I'm going to be able to get in those little voids, get down in between the jig and the piece. Hopefully you guys can see all that figure that really popped out of this, especially right through here and here. Once this got a nice gloss finish on it, it's really going to pop. So let me grab me a brush and a little Dixie cup to put some of the dye into. And get my brush. There we go. Get it down in there. And get it down as far as you can. Doesn't have to be all the way in because that you do need to leave some bare wood for the glue to go on. Glue the finials. Just get some dye down in those voids there. And the white spots that are still showing. Gonna feather everything together. A little bit of a white spot right there. You don't want to leave any really raw wood showing. Well, I've got rid of that white section. Now I'm just feathering and blending the dye from the center out towards the top. That way it doesn't leave any stark lines. You don't want a really straight, stark, obvious lines in your dye markings. All right, that took care of the dyeing. And I can grab me my can of acrylic gloss and we'll couple of coats real quick. It dries pretty fast. And you'll see how fast or how nice this dye really made this burl pop out. All right, so about 6 to 10 inches away from the piece here. You know, nice light coats. You don't want anything heavy that's going to cause runs. All right, so let it sit for just a minute as we go around and around and around. I'm just going to turn it down and apply one more coat. If we can, one more shake. You want this, if it's gloss, you want it to have a nice wet look to it. If you're spraying satin on something, you know, usually I can get away with just one coat of satin on ornaments. But I find shiny ornaments sell more than the satin ones. Okay, so we need to turn that back on. So this doesn't look perfect right now, that's fine. So, let's see where it's really shiny, it's where the wood is a lot denser, so it's not soaking in quite as much as in other areas of the wood. But we're going to call that good for now. Hopefully you guys can get a better look at that color. I'm going to zoom this overhead camera in. Hopefully you guys can get a better idea of what I'm looking at. You can see where, that's where all the dense wood is, where it's really shiny. So it's going to take a couple more coats to build up. But you can see how the color just went right through the flake and the figure of that burl. It looks really pretty. So we need to grab a small spindle roughing gouge just to get this thing round and get the general shape and take a lot of the waste wood away. And this tool really comes in handy for that. High speed creates a better cut. See, I'll show you what a slow speed, I'll show you the difference between a slow speed with this and a high speed. So I'll turn it up to 1,000, and then I'll turn it up to past 2,000, and you'll definitely see a difference and hear a difference. So because this is square, you can hear that choppiness. Chop, 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 chop. Well, it's going to cause you some tear out all the way down. Even when it's smooth, it's going to give you a rough cut. And it's really and it's just hard to turn at something like this at a slow speed. So let's turn it up. Where are we? About 2,300 RPMs. Sounds good. Just below vibration point. And now these cuts, it'll just cut through butter just like a buzzsaw now, and you'll hear the difference. All that chop, chop, chop is all gone. And right now I'm just getting this thing turned around. Almost. You can tell by the sound of the cut, and if you just rub your tool across the top of the surface there. And just to make sure, you turn off the lathe. So we got a flat spot. Oh, is that flat or is that just in the wood? Wow. I'm looking at this piece of wood here. Yeah, just look at that. It's all the way across. That's just all fiddleback right there. Crazy. All right. So what we want to do is just going to turn the tool rest just a little bit on an angle there for a better angle of attack. We're just going to start paring this down until we got a point on the end. Nice gentle cuts. You don't need to be in a rush when you're making finials. Even in production work, you want to take your time. You want to leave as much mass as you can on the back side of these. Just cut down on vibration and stress when you're doing the cuts. So we got a nice cut there. So what I want to do now is I'm just going to start trimming some of this back. I'm going to shave down some of this unwatered wood. Alright, so now what I want to do is get my small detail gouge. I'm just going to come in here and make a detail right in this area right above that point. I'm just going to start the tool almost straight up and down, flute wise, and then just do a turn and push into the piece. Alright, so now we got our first detail. Now I want to grab me my spindle gouge here. So I want to take a bunch of this down now. And I want to keep a little bit right here because I am going to create a small bead right here. So I'm just going to do a twist. That's going to be too big for that. So I'm just going to, I'll make the bead smaller. It's just I need a little bit of mass there. I just need to pare this down. There we go. Small 1/4 inch detail gouge. This little tool's come in really handy when you're making finials like this. Still a little too big for that bead, so I took a little more wood down. I want to take this down, pare it down, pare it down. Make sure you don't go all the way through the wood. And I just want to open this up a little bit. There we go, that looks better. And more space in between the point and the bead. And you can see I'm doing a lot of twisting with the tool. And that's what allows you to create these little details here. You could use a small skew, but I have never really used a skew too much, except at my beginning of my wood turning journey I did, but kind of shied away from it over time. So now it's time to take some more wood away, and then we're going to come in and we're going to sand some of this. We need to, as we sand, we need to work our way further and further down. So we sand as we go. So you want to get a little bit thinner through here. And then we're going to do something that's going to even make it thinner. More detail here. I'm just going to kind of highlight this area right in here. Do a little V cut with the small detail gouge. Don't go any further than that. Grab me a very small piece of 220 or 320. I'll need a really big piece. I'll be able to get into these little spots here, so you want to sand as we go, because once you get down further here, you can't come back and sand because we're going to be so thin that you can cause your finial to break. And sandpaper is great for finials too, because it really lets you get in there and shape any type of beads you might be creating. Course, 1, 2, yeah, we're 3 hours in. So. All right, gently bring the tool rest back up. Got my spindle gouge. Start taking some of this wood away. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a cove, so we want to go both directions here. And we're going to come back the opposite way. Start cutting downhill. It's got a lot of wood to play with here still. Oh, before I move any further too, I want to leave a mark as to how far I want to go down, because I do make a small finial for the top of the ornament. So about that much. So this will be the very bottom of our bottom finial there. We're just paring this down, kind of thin there, and then we're going to work our way from the top towards the headstock, up different direction here. We're going to take this down here, in this area, right in this area where my finger is. That's where the thinnest part of the finial is going to be. So you want a nice gentle curve going into that, nice gentle cove type, nice long cove. Now, one thing you got to remember about making finials on a lathe also, it might look thin right here, right now. Once you take it off the lathe and you turn it the other way, it can look clunky. So I always go on the side of making it a little thinner than I think I should. People like the delicacy of having a really thin finial on their pieces or on their ornaments, although you don't want to go so thin that they'll just break off on in their hands if they pick up the ornament. So that's how thin I want to go there. I just want to come back this direction now and just match that. That thickness right in this area right here. There we go. You can take your fingers and feel if there's any major bumps. So there's a bump right here. You can also see it now that I felt it. Make that a little blacker. You guys can see that shape showing up a little bit better. But I do need to take this down quite a bit still. So it's going to be a nice, long, gentle curve. And pretty soon I'll just grab the sandpaper here and finish sanding it up. Nice gentle cuts here. So you see the wood already starting to bend just a little bit. Okay, I just kind of messed that up. Lost that curve right through here. So I'm just using the top edge of the, on the side of the tip there just to clean that up. Nice gentle. And we need to go a little bit thinner on this end. Get that to match up. Have a look down. Okay, it's still a little big right through here. This nice gentle cut starting and then coming right out of the cut before you get to that thin part right here. This takes a really light touch. There's no heavy-handedness when it comes to making finials. You still have a couple of bumps showing up. Sometimes sandpaper will get rid of those. It's best to try to get as much as you can done with the tool, of course. Alright, sandpaper time. So I don't slow down the lathe too much, just for a small finial like this, I tend to just let it run at high speed. Does a good enough job. So I'm using a 320. It's not going to heat up as much as, say, if you were using a 180 or 120 grit. Clean that up right through there. We got a nice shape going there. There's a little bit of sanding right there to clean up that shape. Sandpaper, you're really a good friend when it comes to making finials. Can't remember if I said that. So you just fill it with your fingers. And we still need to work on this a little bit, so I'm not too worried. There's still kind of a bump right there, but we're going to start shaping that onion right there. So this will all disappear when we get to that point. I'm going to bring my tool rest in just a little bit. Too fast. So we want to take some of this away. It's way too thick. This will get rid of that high spot that I was talking about a second ago. So now we want to mark or do a dive in where the onion's going to be. So we got the tool started and we're just going to do a twist. And you'll see why it's called an onion shape in a minute. I'm going to take this down so it's a little bit further out of the way. Just going to cut all this away anyway. It looks like a baby onion. That's where the name came from. Kind of almost a V cut right through here. Still got a little bit we need to take off right here, gentle. And more sanding now. Got kind of a bump right there with the sandpaper, should get rid of that. Just smooth everything out. This is a silver maple, if you're just curious. It's a 1x1 piece, 6 inches long. Now I do have a special type of finial tool rest. I'll probably pull it out for our next one, but I like to show how to do it with a regular rest. As most people don't have this special type of finial tool rest that I just got at the AEW Symposium in Chattanooga last June. I don't know how many of you made it there or not. I was a demonstrator. First time for everything. So we got a nice shape going. It feels good. We need there's a slight bump right there. I can see it. We got these magnifying reader type safety glasses on, and it really lets me see all these little nuances in the wood and the shape and things. So, all right, so we're done with this part of it. So now what we want to do is we're going to create a cove right at the top of the onion. So we want to take some of this wood away, but not all of it. I'm going to take this down thinner. We're just going to work our way down. Get a nice thin cove going here. From the top all the way to the other side here. There we go. You want to go back and forth to the middle. You want to work with the grain. If you're going uphill, you're working against the grain. And now I'm just going to do a kind of a detail right here. Just turning the tool all the way on its side and pushing it in. There we go. Nice, nice. Looks good. So I'm going to grab me my small detail gouge. I'm just going to clean this area up between the finial and the cove. Nice little sharp V cut in there. Adds a little bit of an extra detail. Now I want to clean this up. I'll show you why. When you create that high detail there, it'll leave like choppiness there. So you need to come back with a smaller tool, catch the edge right there, and just detail it right down in there. Then pull out the opposite direction on the other side. The tool is on its flute closed, so it's still got a little bit to go. Still a little bit of a choppiness there. So this cove is going to get a little bit smaller. Yeah, got a little bit of a tool mark right there, so I'll just clean that up. You want nice, crisp parts on a finial. You don't want anything all chopped up and beat up and stuff. So now, clean up that little V cut. I'm just going to come in the opposite side here and drive the point down inside. Oh. I brought the tool out and hit the side with the flute opening, and that's what caused it to skate back. You can see a little bit of tear out right there where it kind of skated back on me there. Grab me my little paper towel or paper towel, a little piece of sandpaper, and clean up that cove. Gotta keep from rounding over those little crisp details. So I'm gonna have a look at this one because it looks like it got kind of rounded over right there. So I'm gonna come back in with the detail gouge right here, and I'm just gonna do a slight push with the flute closed. Pick up that cut and bring that right in there. There we go. There, nice detail now. So we got a nice shape going there. Onion shape, nice cove. So all we need to do now is create a chamfer right here and a tenon on the bottom of this that'll go in that large 5/8 inch hole. So I'm going to use my parting tool, very simple, basic, for this cut. I'm just going to come in on a slant right here. Get a nice chamfer right there. And I'm just going to go in part way. Not all the way in yet. And I need to measure the opening for this particular ornament. So where are you? So I'm thinking this one looks about the right size for this piece. So we'll use the natural edge on this one. So I need to get my calipers out. Measure the inside of this hole. Now the reason why I don't measure the drill bit is because sometimes the hollowing tools, those rocket tools, can touch the edge of the opening and make it enlarge it a little bit. So it can go a little bit larger than 5/8. There we go. That measure tightened down. So we can come back in and we're just gonna work our way down to that size. Using the parting tool. So we'll just do some stop and go here. Just be careful with the lathe that's running when you do this. Good tight grip on your calipers. I'm doing it the back side of the tenon first. That way I can just work my way up towards the finial if I need to. If this becomes a little looser, I can use that larger part and just make it a little bit bigger. There we go. Sounds like it's perfectly right on there. So I'm just going to take this down. Just a little extra because the glue is going to expand the wood. If the wood expands too much, it can crack the ornament globe. So now I need to grab me my small parting tool that I have ground on a slant. It's got a cut, sort of like a skew cut. And what this does, it allows me to come in and do an undercut. You want to do a slight undercut underneath the finial back here so it'll rest nice and flush all the way on the bottom of your globe. And because it's cut on a skew, when you get to the bottom, that skewed portion, that flat portion on the parting tool is going to rest flat on the tenon. So it won't leave any kind of undercut or high spot or anything in there. There we go. So now all we need is my thin parting tool. And we can part this off. Where did I set my thin parting tool? It is not in my rack. There it is. So we'll just come in here and just part this off. You don't need a real long tenon on it, just enough to go into that hole and hold some glue. You don't need to worry about sanding the bottom or anything. Don't take it to where it's going to pop all the way off. You can just twist it, and that bottom of the tenon is going to be hidden inside that globe anyway, so you don't need to worry about sanding this part. What do now is just take this, pull it out just a little ways, and we can create a very small, not really tall tenon or finial. It's sort of almost like it's like a dome. That's what I like to shape it as, with just a slight detail. So it doesn't take much. So I just pull this about halfway out and tighten it back down in the same grooves it was in. Spindle gouge. So we're just going to start creating a dome on here. Get rid of that. Before I go any further, I want to put that little kind of notch thing in the middle. Drill it out with my pin vise. For eye hook. No. So I can take some of this wood down just to get it out of my way. So I'm going to turn this tool on its side. That's too big of a bite, I think. So I'm just going to come in, clean that up, take this down a little bit. Do some draw cuts to get rid of some tool marks there. Now I'm going to grab me my small detail gouge again and take a more diving cut further deeper into this. Deeper V-cut there. So this is a little big for me, so I'm just going to kind of take it down a little bit. Didn't like the look of that. It's still too proud, so I'm just going to take this down a bit more. There we go. That's a better look. Kind of try to match the curve of this top finial with the curve of the globe. So make sure this is nice and crisp right through here. Okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty much done, so just need to do a draw cut right here. There's a little bit of a tear out right there, so I want to get rid of that. Gonna round that over just a little bit more. Looks much better. I'm back with this detail gouge because I did touch that large one. I'll clean that back up. Come back in, clean that up. Then we'll touch it with some sandpaper. See, really simple on the top. I don't generally do really ornate finials on the top. Now we want to come in with that parting tool again, and we're going to create that same type of chamfer on the bottom that we did on the bottom finial here. There we go, I'm just going to take that down a little bit. We got to go quite a ways. That hole is quite a bit smaller on the top. I want to get this jammed in between these two, so I stop the weight, check the measurement. Doesn't need to take much. It's best to stop and check and take too much off. It's a little bit wobbly. Still got a little more room to play with right there. So I can just make this area a little bit bigger. Just a hair too small in that other area. Believe me, it's worth this little extra effort. There we go. Get that right. And take this part down, and then we'll grab that small parting tool again and do another undercut. We're just going to create the undercut here. So it matches that tenon. Grab my sandpaper and just clean up this chamfer real quick. Remember, we want to keep the details nice and crisp. We want to try to get those nice. So the last thing we need to do is grab a nice antique brass ones for this piece. Just put it in there, screw it in, there we go. I generally like not to glue those in because it allows you to, you know, do small adjustments on it if you want a certain part of the ornament to show more than another. And if you glue it in, it's just going to be stuck and you're going to end up twisting the hanger and everything. It's better just to be able to twist that eye hook ever so gently. Then parting tool. You leave a little bit extra tenon on here, go into that hole for extra glue support. Because this is where all the support comes from. So I'm thinking this one will probably look better on this one. And that smaller onion-shaped one that we did, it's going to look better on the bottom of this one. So, yeah, I think that's a good choice. This does match the, you know, 2/3, 1/3 type of rule because this is so long, so much better. But that's a really very interesting and, as you can tell, detailed type of finial to make. So we're going to call it a day. I think we went through a lot of ornaments, and I hope you guys learned a lot. I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me. All right. Well, I guess it's time to
Thank you, Scott.
see you next time.
Fantastic demo, Scott. Thank you.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Tell your friends. All right. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.